Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Allison.
And this is
And
Nerd
we're
of the
in
Week.
rare form today.
We're doing great. This is Nerd of the Week, randomly generated fandom podcast. Before I sneeze my brain out because my allergies are acting up out of nowhere, Generator, would you like to tell people what our word is this week?
The word of the week is infection.
Yeah, infection.
You know, very appropriate sneezing for this word, even though you said it was allergies.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. What if it's not?
Well, if I'm here next week, we'll find out.
You can still have an infection and still be here.
No,
Infection doesn't automatically equal death.
the next one I have, I'm out.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Thank you. I'm fairly certain it's based on the pine tree that just like spewed out a bunch of pollen in the last like day for me. That's riling up my nose.
Oh no.
How timely.
Very.
Anyway, Allison,
So,
what does infection mean?
geez. Infection means some sort of foreign organism being perhaps bacterial, fungal, parasitic, or wait, did I say viral? Yeah, viral.
Yeah.
In nature that has come into the body and caused maladies.
You're going to be so mad at this definition.
Oh no.
Yours is so much better.
Good.
Noun, the process of infecting or the
No.
state of being infected.
No.
Or an infectious disease. Actually, the one that's like, it's like an updated definition for computing, because like viruses in computers is actually
okay.
better than the one for like the original use of the word, which is the presence of a virus in or its introduction into a computer system. Like that is a better definition than the process of infecting.
Yes. Well, yeah, you're right. I hate the original definition. Mine is so much better.
Yours is so much better.
And I should win an award.
You should.
Thanks.
The Google Definitions Award. And this is from the Oxford Languages. Like, excuse me?
Okay. Let's look up something like the Merck Manual's definition for infection instead.
Okay.
See what they say.
All right. Merck Manual. Oh, they just kind of go more into like different types of infections.
Okay.
Or manifestations of infections showing like cellulitis or abscess or systemic fever, which gives
various maladies, like I
various
alluded
maladies.
to.
Yeah. How about Merriam-Webster? If I could spell Merriam-Webster, you know, it's got two R's.
Webster. I had a fish when I was little named Webster.
Aw, that's
He
adorable.
died. Well,
Aw.
obviously he died. I shouldn't say obviously because I still have a current fish named Spencer who I got at the same time as Webster, and Spencer is still alive and he is 19 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I do have to clarify if and when my fish have died. Because
fair.
not all of them have. Knock on wood.
You keep on trucking, Spencer.
He's a good boy.
He is a good boy.
All that aside, what were we doing?
I went to Merriam-Webster's definition, which is
yeah.
more like what you say. The state produced by the establishment of one or more pathogenic agents, such as bacteria, protozoan, viruses, or are in or on the body of a suitable host.
Nice. Cool.
So that much better than just the process
Google.
of infecting. All right, Google, you made me do extra work for this one.
But it was fun, wasn't it?
It
Didn't you have
was
fun?
I did have fun. It also gives me like a
all that
list on the side, and I just appreciate that it gives me common cold, flu, strep throat, urinary tract infection, cellulitis, stomach virus, middle ear infection, and then just ear infection. Like different, like we could have just gone with ear infection, but it's fine.
Cool. I mean, I think there's many more that we could include.
Yeah, I mean,
Should
I
we
think
cancel
this is,
the podcast we originally planned and just list all the different types of infections we can?
we could. That may
It
go
might not
on
be
for
good
way
listening.
too long. That would just be like medical school all over again.
We don't need that in our lives. I think we should talk about movies instead.
Let's talk about movies instead.
Okay. Do I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I really enjoyed last week when I did my hot takes instead of like a full long summary, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that this time because I don't know if you're familiar with the movie I've brought, which makes the hot takes kind of harder to do. So
Understood.
we'll see if you know this movie. It's
Okay.
from 1998 and it is the Madeline movie.
Madeline. That sounds really familiar.
Are you familiar with Madeline
Yes.
as an entity at all?
I am familiar with Madeline as an entity. She's an orphan, right? And she's at a
Yeah.
boarding school with
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that
But
I know
you
that
never saw the movie? Like
don't
the
know that
live
I've seen this-
action?
I don't know that I've specifically seen this movie.
Okay, well, apparently it made a huge impression on me as a child, and I think I watched it a lot more than I was remembering I watched it, 'cause as I was rewatching it for this, I knew almost every single line in it. So I think this really had an impact on me in my childhood.
Your lizard brain held onto it.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess I will just kind of summarize, and maybe I will hot take along the way.
I love it.
And there's actually quite a lot of infection going on in it, so that's fun. First off, I'm not sure when the movie actually takes place. It obviously was made in 1998, like I said. I think
Okay.
it might take place in like the 50s or something like
Sure,
that.
okay.
Because they have cars. They don't talk about world wars. I mean, I don't think they would. It's a children's story. But it seems like it's after the world wars.
Got it. Okay.
So it probably is in the 50s, but it might not be. I have no idea. Anyway, it takes place in Paris.
Okay.
And the premise of Madeline, even before this movie, it was like a series of books. And I think there was also like a cartoon or something.
yeah, there's a cartoon.
Yeah. So the premise is there were 12 little girls who lived in 2 straight lines, which basically means that they just like everywhere they went, like if they were walking or sitting at the table or whatever, they were just like in these parallel lines of 6 with each other, whatever.
Okay.
And then the smallest of all was Madeline. So Madeline is, as you said, an orphan, unfortunately. And when I was little, I think I had thought that all of the girls were orphans. But that is not, in fact, the case. Madeline is the only orphan. Everyone else comes from rich families, and they're at
Oh.
this boarding school.
Okay.
Yeah, so Madeline is just there because she's a ward of the church, and I think the school is run by the church because their teacher, Miss Clavel, is a Catholic nun.
That name sounds really familiar. I think I actually might know this. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's the same as in the cartoons. So if
Yeah.
you know the cartoons, then you'll have heard most of this.
Then I think I know a little bit more than I think I do.
Okay, good. So basically, the premise of the movie is just like the adventures of Madeline, but it's like a few little vignettes that are kind of strung together into a full-length movie, essentially. Because there's a few that like you didn't need to know the first part to know the second part, essentially.
Sure,
But
okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
going on. So we get introduced to them all first, and then it's their dinner time. They bring out this wonderful chicken dinner that the chef has made. The chef's name is Helene, and she makes chicken Helene as her signature dish, and everyone loves it. And it seems like all is well with the world. So they all go up to bed, and they say, well, Miss Clavel says, "Good night, little girls. Thank the Lord you're well." And they say, good night, dear Miss Clavel." See, here I go, knowing all the lines. Anyway, then Miss Clavel goes down to her room and she's praying for them. She like lists off all the names and she comes to Madeline last and she says, "And God bless Madeline, especially Madeline." And that's where you're like, oh, because Madeline's an orphan and she's a sorry case.
Aw.
But she's really not a sorry case. She's got spunk. She can do whatever she wants. Anyway, then Miss Clavel wakes up with a start in the middle of the night, and she says something is not right. And she rushes upstairs, and all the girls are like gathered around Madeline's bed, and they're crying, and they say, Madeline is burning up, Miss Clavel. And she rushes over, and Madeline, sure enough, looks incredibly sick and feverish and is not doing well in the slightest. And so an ambulance is called immediately, and Madeline is rushed to the hospital with Miss Clavel, and Miss Clavel holds on to her and is like, just remember, you can do anything. And so Madeline has this mantra going the whole time of, I can do anything, I can do anything. And she's immediately taken away to surgery. No diagnostics done, unless they were done miraculously in the 1950s ambulance. Unclear. But she's taken right to surgery.
That seems like a really drastic jump, but okay.
Yeah. So we find out after the surgery that she had to have her appendix taken out. She had appendicitis.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know, the appendix is this tiny little like projection off of the cecum, which is part of the colon, for all you non-medical folk out there. And basically it holds bacteria, and if it gets angry and inflamed, it can rupture, and then you can get sepsis, which is an infection of your abdomen from the bacteria that's in your GI tract.
Yes.
So there's our infection. Hello.
Hello. My husband had appendicitis, and that was a scary time for all of us.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a good time. Actually, I just listened to a podcast episode from Sawbones. If you've not listened to Sawbones, I strongly recommend it. It's a very good podcast. But they just did an episode of appendicitis.
Oh, okay.
And like the story of how appendixes started to be removed. And it kind of sounds like it was an accident the first time. So that's fun.
That's usually medicine in a nutshell, and it's always a little terrifying when you go into medical history.
Yeah. Luckily, this is further along in medical history, though, and so Madeline survives the surgery, because I think they had learned about, like, surgical sterility at that point.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So she makes it out, and then the next day, or maybe a few days later, Miss Clavel brings the rest of the girls to the hospital, and she says, all right, so you can only visit for a short period of time because Madeline has just recovered and she's very tired. Madeline is doing great. She's not tired in the slightest.
Madeline doesn't know she's sick.
Right? Well, I think she does know she's sick. Like, she knows enough. So she, like, she sees them all kind of coming in, and she, like, flips over on the bed and acts like she's asleep. But she's, like, kind of, like, acting like she's groaning in her sleep. Like, oh, it's so painful. Oh, no. Like, just making a scene, basically. And all the girls, like, are, oh, my gosh, Miss Clavel, she's dying. And then she, like, flips over and is like, hello, everybody.
Oh, God. What a ham.
Right? So she totally pulls the wool over their eyes. Totally gaslights them into being sorry for her. And then she's like, so they took my appendix out and they had all my guts out. And they're like, whoa, you watched that? And she's like, well, no, I was actually asleep. And then there's this girl who also goes to this school whose name is Vicky. And she is the apparently richest of them all.
Oh, no.
And the snobbiest of them all. She doesn't really like Madeline very much. I think just because Madeline is poor, basically.
Yeah. Standard
she always
rich
like
people.
wants to be the center of attention. So she's like, so you basically took a long nap and you woke up. And she's like, Madeline's like,
hello,
no.
she had an abdominal surgery,
right?
but okay.
Vicky's just trying to minimize it because Vicky doesn't like Madeline being the center of attention. She wants to be the center of attention.
Okay.
But anyway, Madeline gathers all the girls around and she like lifts up her shirt and is like, look at my scar. And they don't actually show the scar on scene for fear of people being woozy about it, I guess.
That's fair.
In a children's movie. And then Vicky says, it's not even that big. And then one of the other girls is like, no, it's ginormous. So everyone else thinks Madeline's cool. It's just Vicky.
Yeah.
Man, anyway, then
Vicky seems like a jerk.
She is. So then all the girls have to go home because Madeline has to rest. Well, that evening, Madeline goes exploring through the hospital, and she's like carrying her IV bag around with her, or like wheeling the pole around. And she finds this room, and she peeks into it, and it's Lady Covington who's in there. So Lady Covington is actually the like the benefactor. There we go. Benefactor of the school. Her father apparently had started it long ago, and now she makes like all these big donations. But she's very sick, and so she's in the hospital, and she's like, "Oh, Madeline, I'd heard that you were here. I'm so happy to see you. I hope they're giving you a lot of ice cream to help you recover." And Madeline's like, "Oh, yes, so much ice cream. I hope they're giving you lots of ice cream as well."
Aww.
And unfortunately, they are not giving her lots of ice cream. They don't say what she's dying of, but I mean, like, probably cancer.
Yeah.
Like, I
something
don't know, what
horrible
else?
or terminal. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she like tells Madeline, like, "Can I tell you something? When I was at the school, I was a little bit naughty as well, and I carved my name under one of the bed baseboards, and check on it, see if it's still there for me." And so Madeline's like, "Yes, I will. I will see if your name is still there." And like they're having this really like nice moment, and Lady Covington like doesn't seem to mind that Madeline is there. But then Lord Covington comes in and he like yells at Madeline like, "Whoa, what are you doing here? You can't just go wandering around the hospital." Which, I mean, true.
He's not wrong.
She should not be. But at the same time, like Lady Covington likes Madeline and did not mind her being there. And Lord Covington's like, "You're disturbing her and you're like ruining everything and you need to leave right now." So Madeline shamefully goes back to her room.
No.
The next day, Miss Clavel comes to pick her up. She's been discharged from the hospital. She does get to be wheeled out of the hospital in a little wheelchair, which I think is funny because she was literally just walking around on her own the night before. But whatever. She gets to be a little princess for a second. And they go past Lady Covington's room, and she's like, "Oh, Miss Clavel, look, Lady Covington must have gone home." And Miss Clavel says, "No, Madeline, Lady Covington has passed away."
Oh, no.
So that makes Madeline quite sad because, recall, she is an orphan. So at some point, her own parents had passed away.
Yeah, so she's
now
familiar
Lady
with
Covington
that.
has passed away. So she's like at that kind of age where death is like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's a thing that happens. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
right.
So she's like,
Existential crisis.
yeah, just kind of that weird feeling you get when you like realize something horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, so Miss Clavel had like puts her back in the car, and Helene is actually driving the car, and they have a little like BMW Bug. Is it
Oh.
BMW that makes bugs?
Yeah. Isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is.
Volkswagen. Volkswagen Beetle.
It's Volkswagen Beetle. You're right.
Yeah. Forgive my uncar knowledge. I'm so sorry.
I should have known that. Dresden drives a Beetle. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So, what was I saying?
They're driving home.
Oh yeah, they're in the Beetle. She's sitting in the back seat, and there's like this little chicken in a cage next to her.
Okay.
And she like Miss Clavel and Helen are just in the front talking, and Madeline's in the back talking to the chicken. She's like, "What's your name?" And the chicken goes, "Cluck, cluck, 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 cluck." You know how chickens do.
As chickens do. In backs of
And-
trucks.
And then Madeline says, "Is this a pet chicken?" And Miss Clavel says, "No, there's no pets at the school." And Madeline's like, "So what's it for then?"
He's gonna get eaten.
And Helen's like, "It is for dinner. I'm making my famous chicken Helene to celebrate your grand return."
Oh, good. Now she gets to learn where food comes from on top
Yes,
of a lady
yes.
dying and having abdominal surgery.
Right, so now her friend the chicken has to die. She's named it Fred.
Oh,
and
no.
now Fred must die.
Rip Fred.
So anyway, she's sitting at dinner, and so far, like, only the vegetables have been served, and then Helen comes out of the kitchen with the chicken, and it's all, like, passed down, and Madeline's just, like, sitting there with this nauseous look on her face, and her friend is sitting next to her, and like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I can't eat Fred." And her friend's like, "Who's Fred?" And she points at her plane, like, "That's Fred. I
no.
knew him. He was my friend." And then she like pushes her plate away and says to Miss Clavel, "I think I'm a vegetarian." Like just makes a grand statement right there. Not really knowing all that entails or like why people actually become vegetarian for the most part.
Right.
I mean, I guess like
That's one of the reasons.
she's kind of getting there. She's like, "I don't want the animals to die." But like, I feel like she's just, like been sensationalized as a child. You know how like you hear one thing and you're like, oh, that's my whole personality now. Yeah. Anyway, so then her friend's like, oh, well, then I'm a vegetarian too. And then like that whole side of the table like starts pushing their plate away, and Helen comes back in. She's like, what is the meaning of this? What is wrong? And Madeline's like, you should know, Helen, you're the one who killed him. Very accusatory.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then Vicky, sitting across from Madeline, she's like, well, I'm going to eat Fred. He's nice and crispy, just the way I like him.
Justice for Fred.
Justice for Fred. And then all the other girls, like Madeline kind of starts this as Vicky is cutting into the meat and like eating it. And she like starts like going, bork, bork, bork.
Wow.
Like making chicken noises.
Wow.
And all the girls kind of start doing that. And Vicky's just sitting there being taunted whilst eating Fred. And like it's this uproar, and Miss Clavel is trying to get them to quiet down and like have some order, and it's not working. And then of course, right in the middle of this nonsense and uproar, Lord Covington comes in, and he's like, what is the meaning of this?
Yeah. Children's the meaning of this. Calm down.
Yes, children, they're gonna be silly sometimes. So Miss Clavel says, Lord Covington, you found us in the middle of a debate. She's like really good at like understanding what the children are doing and like,
okay,
I guess giving not justice, but like seeing what they're up to and like seeing like it's fine.
This is
they're
harmless.
Kids. Like,
yeah.
Lord Covington says this is an outrage, and I can't believe that they're so poorly mannered.
Oh my God.
They're 10. What are you gonna do?
Leave them alone. I'm poorly mannered, and I'm 31.
But anyway, so Lord Covington, he came to have a private meeting with Miss Clavel, and the meeting is that he is closing the school. He's never liked the school. Apparently, it was the only thing that he and his wife ever disagreed upon. And so now that she's gone, he's
rich
doing
and
away with
mean
it.
old man, and I don't like fun. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's totally like the caricature of like Scrooge kind of.
Yeah.
You're like, I just want money and I don't like anyone. So he's like, I'm going to have it sold immediately and all the girls will be sent away. And Miss Clavel says something along the lines of like, well, as long as there's a school here, I'm going to be here as well, teaching them. So you can't get rid of us that easily. And Lord Covington is dismissed for the evening. She comes back and the girls are still like arguing about chicken, and they're at this point we don't know exactly what's transpired, but they say something like eating chicken's not the same as wearing leather shoes. Like you can see there's ideas there about vegetarianism.
They're figuring it out now.
Yeah, they're working through it. But Miss Clavel says, enough, you must go to bed right now if you're not going to eat. So they all get dismissed upstairs. Miss Clavel, you know, she has a lot on her mind right now. She cannot deal right now.
That's valid. Existential crises are a little bit out of her realm.
Yeah. So anyway, they go upstairs and they're like all getting into bed and they're like, but we're so hungry. What are we going to do? And Madeline says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go down to that chicken. We're going to
down to the chicken.
Go down to the kitchen and make ourselves a snack. Oh my gosh, I forgot a very important part.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
As Madeline was returning home from the hospital, her hat gets blown away by the wind and she goes chasing after it down the sidewalk in front of the house.
Really good to do with stitches in your abdomen. Okay.
Right? Yeah, she did not maintain her composure or keep her e-collar on. Anyway, so she goes running after her hat and it gets run over. I mean, actually stopped, so it's kind of good that it didn't continue rolling, but it gets run over by a motorcycle.
Oh, no.
And it, like, the camera pans up and it reveals this little boy on a Vespa. He's meant to look, like, real tough and scary. He's a 10-year-old.
On a Vespa.
He's not that scary. But anyway, apparently he's the son of the Spanish ambassador who's moving in next door to this school for girls.
Oh, okay.
And immediately Madeline hates him, mostly because he ran over her hat.
I mean, that's fair.
But also because he's a bit obnoxious.
Also fair.
So anyway, she has already decided, like, he's no good, whatever. So going back this evening as they're going down to the kitchen, I don't know how he's planned this, but somehow he is going to be pranking them. He had no way of knowing that they were going to be going down into the kitchen, yet there they are, and he comes up to the window with a mask on and scares them.
What a little stalker.
I know. And needless to say, chaos ensues. One of the girls had like this thing of flour and she like throws it up in the air as she screams. And so there's this whole mess in the kitchen. Everyone's covered in flour. And Miss Clavel and Helene come running in and they're like, well, what is the meaning of this? And they're like, we were hungry. And then Pepito, that's the kid's name, he came and scared us at the window. And Madeline's like at the door, like yelling after him, like, you're no good. And I don't care if you're the son of the Spanish ambassador. I'm going to have you tied up to the flagpole, or, you know, stupid things like that.
Little kid things, yeah.
And Miss Clavel has to like drag her back inside because they're going to like create a war with Spain or something. But anyway, so they clean up the mess and then Helene like takes pity on them and is like, fine, I will cook you something that you want to eat.
Oh.
So they do get their evening meal, whatever it happens to be. They don't show it, whatever.
It's probably just
I'm gonna
Fred in a
skip
different
a bit
form.
because then there's a bunch of things that are not infection for a while. But kind of what happens in between is Pepito also gets a tutor. He's not really a tutor though. He's trying to kidnap him for some reason. I think in a way of like getting money, but also it might be international espionage. Unclear.
There
not
are a
very
lot
sure
of bullet
about.
points in this story.
Yes. Yes, there are. So anyway, the goal is somehow to get him kidnapped at the circus. And that will come later.
Okay.
Something that happens to the girls, though, is they're taking their morning walk and Madeline, other run-ins with Pepito have happened. So like she's got some anger boiling up at this point. So she's like going on this
Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
He seems like a jerk.
He is. I mean, he's really a cinnamon roll once you get to know him, but like so far he's only been a jerk.
Yeah.
But so she's like going on this tirade. She stands up on this cement railing of a bridge over the river, which is the Seine River.
Okay.
The Seine? Whatever. It's the one that's in Paris.
I think it's the Seine. I could be wrong, though.
I think it is. I really should know that. I have been on that river. Whatever. Anyway.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. So anyway, she falls into the river as she's enacting like a sword fight that she's gonna have with him. And Miss Clavel, like the life leaves her as she sees her poor sweet Madeline falling to her death in the river.
With a open... I'm still on her, like, all this stuff she's doing when she should be on 2 weeks bed rest because of her abdominal surgery.
I think some time has passed by now. Okay. I think she's recovered.
Okay.
But anyway, she cannot swim and the current is taking her and she's like rushed under the bridge. So they all like everyone, there's a crowd now. It's all the 12 girls and like some artists that were set up on the bridge to paint the cathedral. And like they all go rushing back and forth across the bridge. And then suddenly there's a little dog. Or not a little dog, it's like a lab. She comes running out of like an alleyway. She's meant to be a stray dog. There's no way she is. She's totally like a purebred lab and she has like white fur. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful, immaculate, perfect. She's a good girl. Anyway, so she jumps into the river and saves Madeline. She's such a good girl. She goes swimming after her. And pulls her back to the shore and Miss Clavel comes running down to the dock and like scoops up Madeline and Madeline's like, where's the dog? Where's the dog? She saved me. Unfortunately, we don't know where Genevieve has gone. She's kind of run off. But everyone's like, oh my gosh, the dog saved you. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. And then, this is kind of silly. Madeline, as she's just been pulled out of the river, starts sneezing. You know how they're always like, oh, don't go out and get wet. You'll catch a cold.
Yeah.
But like she immediately has caught a cold. She's been out of the river for 2 seconds. Like
that's
what?
Impressive. Okay.
That's not how that works, but okay.
Madeline might have a bad immune system.
I mean, she did just have to recover from surgery. She might be a little weakened at this point.
That's true.
But so the next day she is instructed to be left at home in bed so that she can recover from her cold while the rest of the girls go out for their walk. as she's laying in bed, she hears a dog barking outside, and she goes and looks out the window, and it's this dog from the river.
Yay!
So she goes and lets her in as she like rushes past this sign that says absolutely no pets allowed. It's a big sign there.
Yep.
But she brings her inside. She decides to name her Genevieve, and she is the best little girl. She's so sweet. And then Madeline has to like hide her for the rest of the day. But what happens is Lord Covington, he's showing the house, trying to get it sold. So we have some diplomats, I think from Nigeria, come through.
Okay.
And as they're like going through different rooms, Madeline has the dog, and she's like trying to like get out of the room quickly before Lord Covington realizes she's there. And she's like bouncing from room to room and
Dramatic action
escapes
shots.
detection.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, they're about to be seen. Oh, but no, they like got behind a desk just before something happened. So like they make it out alive from there. And then it sounds like the Nigerian diplomats are about to buy the house. They're like, this is perfect. It's beautiful. But then they hear this obnoxious noise of a motorbike coming from the house next door because it's Pepito being obnoxious. And he's like roaming around in his courtyard on his Vespa. And there's like these statues. And as he drives by one, he like kicks it with his shoe so it goes crashing down and breaks.
Oh my
And
God.
the wife of the diplomat, she's like, we cannot live here however many years. I don't know how many years. For years, we lived next door to this awful child, and he never slept, and we will never do it again.
All right, you know what? I can sympathize on that front. That's fair.
Right. Annoying children are annoying. So, anyway, Lord Covington loses the sale.
Good.
But now Madeline has like an idea of like how he does the tours of the house. Like she saw the pathway that he takes and like the highlights that he points out and things like that. So that night she has a bunch of things to reveal to all the rest of the girls. First off, that she has the dog. They are so happy about that. They all want to keep the dog. Also, Miss Clavel has started sneezing and she says, something is not right. We must figure out what this is. So as Madeline is like showing them the dog, she's also saying like, and by the way, Lord Covington is trying to sell the school because they hadn't heard about this yet. Only Miss Clavel knew that the school was being sold.
Okay.
They hadn't been notified. So like this is news to them and they all are shocked about that. And then Miss Clavel comes up into their bathroom where they're brushing their teeth with the dog. And she's like, what you do know is that pets are absolutely not allowed. And what you don't know is that I'm very allergic to dogs.
Oh, no.
And so she knows that they have the dog. And
Right.
But she like sneakily says like, if you have any new friends, they might find that they can sleep in the garden shed this evening.
Oh.
So she's like sneakily letting them keep the dog because
Aw.
it saved her sweet Madeline. So she loves the dog too, even though she's allergic to her.
Yeah.
So Genevieve sleeps in the garden shed, which is no life for a dog. Like, that's not going to be fun for her, but whatever.
I mean, if she...
At least-
Okay, so if they are painting her as a stray, she might actually prefer to be outside at night anyway.
Nah, that's true. That's true.
Slow transition to normalcy.
Yeah. I mean, she was a good girl inside. She didn't get into anything, but
That's fair.
whatever. So the next day, they hear that there is going to be another showing. Like, they confront Miss Clavel about it, and like, we heard the school's being sold. And she's like, yes, it is. Fine. And I need your help to like make sure that you guys actually still look good in Lord Covington's eyes. Like, can you help clean the house or whatever? So Madeline organizes them into, quote, cleaning crews. But really they are disruptors. And so she says, all right, you three, you're on construction. What that means is they're going to go like unscrew the hinges of the doors so that when Lord Covington like knocks on them to show how sturdy they are, they like fall down. And then, like, some people are confiscating this gross cheese from the kitchen and putting it, like, in the drawing room so it has a bad, moldy smell in there. And then Madeline goes and talks to Pepito. And what she says to him is something along... Well, actually, we don't know what she says to him. But what happens when the house is being shown is he makes a complete nuisance of himself and sets off fireworks in the lawn. But what... Miss Clavel asks her, she's like, I need you to tell me exactly what you said to Pepito this morning. And Madeline says, I asked him if he could pretty please be very quiet because we're having some very important guests around later. And I think Miss Clavel knows she's lying, but whatever.
Right. Or she could have told the truth.
That's
and then
true.
Knowing that he would do the opposite.
Exactly. Unclear. Very unclear. But regardless, Pepito helped them to foil Lord Covington's plan, and the house still was not sold.
Hooray.
Let's see. As I said, more and more things are happening. Mm-hmm. I'll skip a few things because we're past the next infection, which was Madeline getting sick from the river. Eventually there's like letters that must go out to the girls' parents, and Miss Clavel, when she gets them from Lord Covington, she takes one of them out and says, "I won't be needing this one though." And he says, "Well, why not?" And he's like, "Because Madeline has no family." And like somehow he didn't know that. I think he must have, though. Like, it seems like if he owned a school that had only 12 girls in it and one of them was a ward of the church, I feel like that would have been brought up at some point.
Right. It probably was. He didn't care.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. To kind of get everyone's mind a little bit cleared up, Miss Clavel decides to take them to the circus, where also Pepito is being taken with his tutor.
To be kidnapped.
Yeah, to be kidnapped. Okay. I mean, that's a whole thing. It's not really related to infection, but basically Madeline decides she's going to run away with the circus because she has no home once the school is closed. And so she wants the circus to be her new home. And Pepito is kidnapped. As Madeline is running away, quote, running away with the circus, she's just like walking behind the tents at this point. But she sees Pepito being forcefully against his will being put into the back of a circus truck for these, like a jester act. It's called the Three Idiots. They're the ones who are kidnapping him along with the tutor.
Okay.
And Madeline says, "No, you can't take him," and like goes and tries to save him, but they kidnap her too. So they're both tied up in the back of this truck, and they're driven somewhere. We are unsure where. Once all the girls get home, Madeline's friend, who she had told she was running away, and given her hat to, so that like when they were in their little bus to drive down there, her friend could like hold the hat up and make it look like she was sitting there next to her. So it looked like Miss Clavel had the right head count, essentially. But when she got home, she's like, "Miss Clavel, Madeline ran away, and I tried to stop her. I really did." She didn't. But she's also tense. She didn't know how. She didn't know how to stop her. And so Miss Clavel immediately leaves, gets in the bug again, and tries to go find Madeline. At some point, Lord Covington had found the dog and made her loose again, so she was a street dog once more. But Miss Clavel finds her as she's driving around in the bug, conveniently. Has her get in the bug and's like, "You have to help me find Madeline." And Genevieve is like, "Yes, I will." Or, you know, she does like a little dog bark. You know how they do in movies.
She's saying, "Yes, I will."
So anyway, the next morning, Madeline and Pepito wake up, still tied together in the back of the truck. Madeline looks around and she realizes that the juggling knives that the jesters use in the show have been left in the truck with them. And she says, "Look, Pepito, we can just cut our ropes and then we'll be fine. And look, there's a motorcycle over there and you know how to drive one." And he's like, "I don't know how to drive a motorcycle. I have a Vespa and I can't leave my courtyard." Like, he knows he's not that cool. But Madeline convinces him, like, "Look, we can do anything. It's fine." And so they cut off the ropes. They start up the motorcycle. They actually, like, jimmy rig her hairpin into it to use as a key, and it works. And they escape on the motorcycle. The guys all realize, like, "Oh my gosh, the kids are getting away," and they hop in the truck. There's like a series of like forked roads that they're all driving on and like narrowly missing each other, and Miss Clavel finds them and she's driving on like the opposite direction, and like she almost causes a huge crash where literally everyone involved could have died. But luckily they all like swerved at the last minute. So Pepito and Madeline on the motorcycle, they go one direction. Miss Clavel like kind of just like pulls over and stops the other direction. But the clowns, they drive their truck into a river. So they fail. They don't die because it's a children's movie. But they get out of the truck and they're put under arrest. And then Pepito and Madeline are taken back home to everyone's great joy. And we realize Pepito really wasn't so bad after all. He was just misunderstood. And then the final foreign diplomat, which this is weird. It's the foreign diplomat from Uzbekistan. And I think they're trying to make some statement because Lord Covington keeps addressing like the husband. And he's like, "Oh, wait, no. I'm not the diplomat." And it's his wife. His wife is the diplomat from Uzbekistan. And I don't know why they included this little aspect in this 1998 film, but she has a pin of like the USSR, you know, like the little scythe and star. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like in 1998, they wouldn't have wanted to include something like that in a film, because I feel like people would take a great offense to it. But I'm not sure, because I was 4 when this came out.
That's fair.
But looking back at it, I feel like a lot of people would have some strong emotions about the USSR. So anyway, she says, don't worry. We bought the house, but you can keep your school. And so I think to myself, they bought the house as a place for them to live, like for their foreign consulate. Why are they letting them keep the school? Surely they're not going to have these 12 girls going to school at the foreign consulate. Like, what's going on here? But I guess that's not the point of the story. The point is...
No, it's a kid's story that's supposed to wrap up nice. Yeah.
Exactly. The point is Madeline still has a home with Miss Clavel and all her friends. And it ends happily ever after. So that's that.
I'm noticing a theme with like the 90s movies that like the bad guy always ends up like in some sort of like water or muck and then arrested.
Some sort of mess. Well, I think it's like a way to disarm them without blood and guts.
Yeah, without killing them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the first time I experienced these, I was a kid. So I was like, okay, that's just what happens to bad guys. And now I'm looking at it as an adult. I'm like, oh, I think they were implying they died.
So, I mean, I guess it'd be nice if all things could wrap up so
neatly,
without so much harm. But I don't think that's the case. Well, I hope you enjoyed my rendition of this movie that apparently meant so much to me as a child.
I did. I feel like I've probably seen it, or at least parts of it, because like some of the things you were describing stick out to me that I'm like, God, that feels really familiar.
Also, parts of it are like real cringy because you're dealing with 12 child actresses.
Right.
So some of it's going to be a little like, ooh, that's a little silly. You didn't have to do that.
Right, yeah.
But oh well.
Oh well. I have a quote for you.
A quote for thee?
For thee. So it is 2 people, and I hope you know what it is. So goes like, carelessness when dealing with a zombie infection can lead to your abrupt demise. Arrogance can lead to yours. Your defect, Miss Bennet, besides eavesdropping, is to willfully misunderstand people, and yours is to be unjustly prejudiced against them.
I know where this is from. Oh, yes, I do.
I finally watched it.
Oh, good. Did you like it?
I did. It was so silly.
Good. And we'll reveal what it is at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, if you know what it is, feel free to tweet at us or grab us on other socials like Facebook, Instagram, using the hashtag Nerd of the Week, or hashtag NOTWP. And we have TikTok, and sometimes I'm on time for putting things on YouTube, sometimes I'm not. But
that's okay. They get there eventually.
They do get there eventually. Yeah. So, I am gonna bring the anime, Cells at Work.
How cute.
Are you familiar with this anime?
I'm familiar with it. I've not actually seen it all the way through. I've only seen a few scenes of it somehow.
Okay.
I'm not sure how, but I'm familiar with kind of the basic premise.
Okay, so Cells at Work is a anime that was originally a manga series that was written and illustrated by Akane Shimizu? I'm so sorry if I said any of that wrong. But anyway, it's about the anthropomorphized cells of a human body. So basically, it's kind of like if Osmosis Jones was medically accurate. But we follow the main character who's a red blood cell who's AE3803. But I'm just going to call her the red blood cell because that's easier. And she has just started her job. She's just left the bone marrow and is out on her first job ever delivering oxygen to cells. And so she basically, that's what she does, is she goes on this transport, and it's set up, it looks like a city. And then they'll like zoom out, and then you'll see like lung tissue or like other tissue like doing the things that they're supposed to do. But for the most part, it's set up more like a city, and then the body is the city. And it chronicles her learning. She's really bad at like navigation and always ends up at like the wrong parts of the body. And so then she always ends up getting into trouble. And her friend who takes pity on her, and there's like this secret like subplot romance that I don't know if it's just me looking for a romance in an anime or if it's actually going to come to fruition. But there's a neutrophil who is U1146, and he
Is that pronounced as in a way, or is it just the U?
It's just like their classification numbers.
Well, like how do they say it?
I
Like,
don't know.
how do they call him? Like, did they say, "Hey, U1146, come here," or like, does he have a nickname?
Other neutrophils will refer to each other as their classification numbers, but when you're talking to different cells, so like a red blood cell talking to a white blood cell, they usually just say red blood cell or white blood cell.
Okay.
Now, I am a dirty heathen, and I listen to this dubbed, not subbed, so I don't...
Oh my gosh, how could you?
I know, I'm the worst.
You're ruining the art. Sorry.
So that's how they did it in English. I don't know if that's how they originally intended it in Japanese.
Okay, fair enough.
But normally, like, there's definitely, like, the bajillion red blood cells, but only, like, 2 or 3 are ever pertinent at a time, so, like, you know who they're talking about.
Okay.
And then, like, each individual character, like, there is... Like, the platelet cells are my favorite. They're little kids, and they're always, like, but they're all construction workers. So they have, like, crossing guard outfits on with these, like, really cute baseball caps, and they're always, like, going, nope, can't come here, because they're laying down platelet tissue, or the thrombocyte stuff. And it's really well done. Like, I'm impressed with the biology behind it. There's an episode where there is, like, so every episode there's some sort of, like, inciting incident. Like, the first episode, I believe, is pneumococcus that comes in.
Oh, no.
And it's like 1 or 2 bacteria that come in that's starting to cell divide, but because the body's healthy, it's able to fight it off. And so you're seeing like the red blood cells, when they sense a antigen, their little antibody hat, because they wear these baseball caps, and then on the back of their head, that thing pops up and it's their antibody going, oh, this, and like then they all like go charging towards it like fiends. And it's so funny. My favorite is that there's a basophil standing like off in the distance, and he's all blue and he's a ninja. And I was watching this the first time with my husband, and I cracked up the second I saw him, and Eric's looking at me like, what? And I'm like, it's because no one knows what they do. And then like 5 seconds later, it was like, because they're really good about explaining like what the body actually does, so what that cell does. So the first time like a mast cell shows up, or the first time a neutrophil shows up, it's like, this is important because like I think the exact description of the white blood cell was like, it destroys foreign substances that infiltrate the body, such as bacteria and viruses. Like, it'll give you like a little blurb about what each thing is. And for basophil, it literally was like, no one's really sure what this does. And oh god, Basophil's my favorite character. He only shows up in 1 episode. I've only watched the first season. Aww. I think there's a second season, but Basophil's my favorite.
He sounds like a good boy.
He's a good boy. He's just like this vague guy in the background with a sword, and he helps out for a minute and then disappears after he's done. But
funny.
It's cute, and there is. So first episode, we follow her through, and then she interacts with like a pneumococcus, gets attacked, it tries to kill her, U1146 protects her, and then he escorts her to the lungs, because that's where she's supposed to go back to so she can pick up more oxygen. And then you meet helper T cell, and killer T cell divisions who are set up to hunt down any extra bacteria because they're there once the neutrophils are aware of it. And they discover that there was a tunnel that it's from a puncture wound on the person that this body's taking place in. But that's
Wait,
where
do we ever meet like the person who's the body?
It's more just like a silhouette defined every once in a while, but we've never really met this person.
Okay, so they're not like a character per se.
They're not a character. They're more of the world that this thing is being hosted in. And it's this person, it's implied, takes really good care of themselves, because there's a spin-off series called Code Black, and it's a person who does not take good care of himself, like is a drinker and a smoker. So it's like, it's a much darker world than the one this body's in.
The cells are in peril.
The cells are in peril. And it's kind of neat in the this is how your body should respond when you take care of yourself. And then this is how your body can respond when you don't take care of yourself.
Oh no.
And this one, the pneumococcus, I think they're trying to take a dendrite tree. So they're following like a nerve back to the cell, and because it's like a shortcut, but there's an area that's closed for repair, and they notice that platelets are trying to open up boxes because they're too short, because they're so little, and I love them so much. And so they help the platelets so that they can grab their boxes, so that they can go close up that hole and lay down their thrombocytes. And then then we see the neutrophil notices sense that the bacteria is nearby again, but the pneumococcus hid itself. So the red blood cells are set up like they're a delivery service, so they're always carrying around a box, and that box is the oxygen delivery that they're giving. And so then they deliver their oxygen, but they always still have their box because of the other 3 oxygens that they always have to keep on them. And then the bacteria had kind of shied into her.
So accurate, though.
Yeah, it's so good. And the pneumococcus had hidden away in the oxygen box that she had because it's a bloodborne pathogen. And then so he lures her. White blood cell can't kill him, but he lures him into the respiratory tract, and then they hit the eject button, and then it turns into this missile that shoots out of the body, and then that's what it sneezes. And it's so good.
Nice.
And so, oh gosh, and that's that series, and I just recommend it if you're even a little bit of a biology nerd, or even if you're not, you'll learn a little bit, because it's very, very well done. The bone marrow, we get a little bit of a history from the red blood cell, and she got picked to be a red blood cell because her hair was red. And she was raised...
That's not how the body really works, but okay.
No, but she was raised with other erythroblasts in the bone marrow by macrophages. And then people don't want to go back into the bone marrow. If you accidentally end up back in the bone marrow, the red blood cells are afraid of the macrophage, who's set up to be this really kindly looking nurse. But she has this huge sword. That's just
a nurse with a sword.
Right? Because she's a macrophage and she cleans up dead cells, so no one wants to mess with her. And so they're like, oh, nope, wrong room, and close the door and leave really fast because they're like, nope, I don't want to deal with her. And she's actually this crazy warrior, but she's set up to be just this very sweet, nice lady.
Is she sad that no one comes to visit her?
No, she's got all her erythroblasts that she's raising.
Okay.
So she's always got new kids to take care of.
You don't want to hang out with kids the whole day.
No. I mean, sometimes she gets called out as the big gun when there's a bacteria or a virus that the neutrophils can't handle.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then one of the kind of overarching plot of the series is that there's also a hidden cancer cell, and he will show up occasionally, and you slowly learn that one of the characters is a cancer cell, and he's trying to blend in and not be picked up because sometimes the neutrophils alert will go off, But he's like, but there's nothing around here. I don't know. And so toward the end, the cancer cell, it kind of turns into like a zombie infection. Still managed to get zombies in.
That's right. You said you were going to bring zombie things for this.
And so it turns into like a bunch of cells getting infected by the cancer cell. And it turns into kind of like a apocalyptic scenario. But then it's implied that the person got chemo and then helped the body get rid of those cancer cells. And then the body was able to fight off the rest of it. And
Good for them.
Good for them. And I just love it. It's so good. And I think everyone should watch it. There's an episode where, because Neutrophil acts like he's really cold because he has to be like a soldier all the time.
Aww.
But he also clearly cares for Red Blood Cell because she gets lost all the time. So like the first time he lets her go on, she's like, I can do it this time. Because normally they'll like travel together instead. But she's like, I can do it. I can go on my own. And there's a whole episode where he is just like setting up like barriers and like changing traffic flows so that she makes the whole transit by herself, so she thinks she did it, so she can develop confidence. Cute. I know, I love them so much.
So does she actually learn how to do it?
She does. She gets better, and then she eventually starts to teach a new red blood cell how to do everything too. And she's still a little ditzy, but she's getting better, and she's becoming a more mature red blood cell.
Aww. That's so sweet.
Uh-huh. So I ship them, obviously, and that sells it.
I feel like that must have been intended. Like, why else would they set up two characters like that?
Mm-hmm. And like I said, like I mean, obviously they're anthropomorphized, and there's some things that are exaggerated, but for the science and the things they explain are pretty well accurate to what we know right now. And then the characters are all very memorable, and they keep like the same looks. So like when you like scan a crowd, you know who's who. Like all the white blood cells are in like these white coats and have white hair. Red blood cells are always in like red coats.
Good character design.
Yeah, the dendritic cells always have like these green outfits. The killer T cells are always like these big burly muscular guys.
Are there eosinophils at all, or just the basophils?
You know, I think there are eosinophils. Yes, there is, because she is. It's a chick who has.
Is she like real pretty?
She's real pretty. I'll send a picture of it too.
Okay. It just seems like the eosinophils are the flashiest white blood cell. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I feel like they'd want to make them pretty.
Yeah, and they called her in because it turned out to be a parasite as opposed to a virus, and they couldn't handle it, so they needed her to come in instead.
Nice.
And I need to watch Code Black because I've heard it's darker, but it's also like very like, and it's more like apocalyptic style of like fighting off an infection all the time. Mm-hmm. And you could do so much with it because like there's so many different types of bodies, there's so many different types of infections and diseases and things that like it's a very brilliant and well done manga and anime. And I've heard, I don't know if it's true, I've heard that in like biology classes in Japan, this has actually been used to help teach biology when they do the immune system stuff, to be like, here's something to stick on to so it's easier to remember. And I hope it's true because that's amazing if it is.
Seems like, I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of like Magic School Bus.
Yeah, it gives the
in
same,
a way.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely more gory and such, but than Magic School Bus. But I mean, high school biology, I definitely could have seen watching this and then like using it as like instead of a movie night, or like those movie days where they just like wheel in the TV, do this instead, and then at least it's still fairly educational and pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was very fitting.
Highly recommend anyone who is interested to watch it. It's very fun. All right. Would you like the quote again?
Sure.
Oh, gosh. Where did I put it?
Oh.
Okay. I got it. We good. Carelessness when dealing with a zombie infection can lead to your abrupt demise. arrogance can lead to yours. Your defect, Miss Bennet, besides eavesdropping, is to willfully misunderstand people, and yours is to be unjustly prejudiced against them.
That must be from Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
It is!
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
I'm glad you did finally see it. It seems like it was something right up your alley.
It 1000% was.
Good.
It was so funny. And I also just love Pride and Prejudice, too, so any, like, a variation on it I'm okay with.
Have either of us actually brought original Pride and Prejudice for this yet?
I don't think we have.
Well, I know I did Pride and Prejudice and Zombies at one point.
I don't think we've done just Pride and Prejudice.
I don't think we have.
Oh, occasionally we bring books, but...
I mean, it's a movie, too.
It is a movie, too. And
It's many movies, actually.
yeah, there's been many an iteration of Pride and Prejudice.
But anyway, maybe one day we'll talk about it. Maybe next week we'll talk about it. Can we fit it into what our next word is?
All right, generator, what's our next word?
The next word is ghost.
Ghost.
Ghost. I don't...
There might be in the book one like poetic mention of ghost.
Yeah. It'd be a bit of a stretch for Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah. I already know what I'm bringing for this one.
Yay. Good. I'm glad. I'm excited. I do like ghosts. That continues to fit my vibe.
Wait, we've had like a lot of mythical creatures as our words.
We have.
The generator knows us so well.
The generator knows that that's the type of media we consume.
But like we've had zombie, obviously, and I think we've had vampire.
We have had vampire.
We've had fairy.
Fairy. Yeah. We
Yeah?
have... Going through our list
And
now.
we've had duck.
Duck isn't a mythical creature, though.
I know.
I guess it could be, but... so now we have ghosts, so...
Sorry. I thought I was terribly funny. I had to say it.
I did too.
Okay. We should probably end this before I think I'm more funny, even more so than I think I am.
Thanks, Generator, for our next mythical creature. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to our podcast. We appreciate it. If you find us funny, like we find each other funny, feel free to share with a friend so we can grow as a podcast. And as always, I've been Stephanie.
And I've been Allison.
Remember, we're still not a pyramid scheme.
Uh-uh.
Bye.
All right, bye.